It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large, 60 minutes of smart talk radio featuring guests from all walks of life in conversation with your host, Warner Lewis. So sit back and lend us your ears for the next hour. Now here with today's first guest is the host of Lewis at Large, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Here's truly Warner Lewis from the flight deck, and of course, as always, some smart talk radio is in your future, in this segment, certainly no exception. Very happy to have back the official financial advisor for Lewis at Large, Denise Winston. She has been a tremendous, informative guest on this show many times in the past. And for 25 years, she has pretty much established herself as America's sort of financial expert and advisor. And we're not going to be talking stocks and bonds here, but we will be talking about smart ways maybe to manage your money, some things you had not thought about. Denise has been very, very busy with lots of interesting things, too, and also got a reissue, so to speak, of an important work that she did, and we'll talk about that as well. Denise, how are you, my friend?
It is so great to be back with you and everybody out there, Lewis.
It's it's been a while, but let's get caught up a little bit. Again, you began your career and had a very successful career in banking, and that seems a logical transition maybe to finances. But tell us about what caused that decision to have you leap from being in banking to do the kind of independent and group advising that you do.
You know, really what I found is that as a banker, I saw firsthand day in, day out how the rich got richer and how the poor got poorer, and how money impacts people's lives, whether it's their relationships, their health, our community, our economy. And basically, we don't teach money as a life skill. We don't teach financial literacy in a way that people really grasp it. And so, as a banker for 25 years, I saw exactly what was being left out, what people didn't understand, and I really felt strongly that I could help because I'd been volunteering in classrooms and really trying to put better educated consumers onto our streets and into our workforce. And I had already developed a plan, so I thought, gosh, after 25 years and what was happening in the banking situation, our financial crisis as a nation, I said, well, I'm going to jump out and see what this little one person can do. And I've been doing it ever since and just absolutely love what I do.
And what kind of along those lines, just recently, just a few months ago, you shared the stage with former President Clinton out at USC in the world's largest financial literacy education event, designed really and targeted pretty much at students, was it not? Tell us a little bit about the event.
Oh, it was just absolutely extraordinary. We had 7,000 people there. 6,000 of them were students. And, they came to me and they said, Denise, we're looking for somebody, that number one can, handle this kind of audience and this group of youth. And we want content that's real and relevant that they can get and use in their day-to-day lives. So what can you do for us? So we basically put our heads together and came up with a program. And so, I delivered like a 25-minute segment of financial literacy, and the world, Guinness World Record judge was there, and she had to make sure that everything was exactly right. And, just sharing the stage with former President Clinton and just, being in that capacity with that many people and just knowing that together we can put this kind of content out that can actually change people's lives. So it was wonderful. Definitely a highlight for me within the last year.
Well, we've talked about this subject before, but as time goes on, things change in the world of finance, in the world of how do we plan a budget, how do we do things, how do we spend our money, how do we save our money. From your vantage point, what do we as Americans in general, what are we doing right?
Well, the fact is we make between 6 and 10 financial decisions every single day. And so, number one, we're working. That's good. Most of us are working, and we are making decisions, and we're making the decisions as best we know how. And I find that a lot of times people simply get into financial situations that are sticky because they're undereducated and misinformed, hence my passion for really providing information that people can use. I think that now we are more open as a society to learning about money and maybe not taking everybody else's word for what they say we should do with our money, but taking a little more ownership of it.
All right. So that leaves the flip side is, where are we challenged? Where do we need to do better? And the list may very well be long, but why don't you highlight maybe 2 or 3 of the top ones from where you sit?
Well, from where I sit, the number one thing that I think we could do as a general population is, there was just a recent study showing that we are now eating out more than we are eating at home, which tips the scales. The number one place that people actually spend money out of their budget is eating out, because we're busy, we want to enjoy life, we don't have time to plan, and that eats into our budget. The huge concern that I have right now is actually when it comes to health care. This is a major, major component, because now it is by law mandatory for every single person to have medical coverage, and ACA compliance for, corporations and organizations. We are now having to shift a lot of that cost onto our employees, which is causing havoc to already financially stressed employees. So this is actually my top concern and my main focus right now, just to really provide people with some content around medical insurance and how to better understand, utilize, and choose those programs. So that's major concern for me. Absolutely.
What about just in the general topic of budgets? What sense do you have a percentage of American families either have established, talked about, or I suppose in the most extreme cases actually follow a real household budget? It
is definitely the minority, a very, very, very small. I do financial workshops for corporations, and I do a lot. I've just got off, it's April's Financial Literacy Month, and I just did a huge real-world finance tour, and it just blows me away at how many people do not know their numbers. That is like the golden rule. Just like when you go to the doctor, you've got to know your numbers. When you're talking about your money, you've got to know your numbers. So I would say maybe 5%. Maybe 5%, and that was my experience as a banker. The number of people that would come in and say, how much of a house can I afford? How much of a car payment can I afford? They came to the banker to answer that question, but in reality, we as consumers have to know that number, because, you can qualify for a lot more than you can truly afford. The bank doesn't know what your personal habits are about eating out, or what your medical expenses are, or if you have a retail therapy problem. They're not going to know that. So we have to own our numbers and know our numbers. So I would say it's a very, very, very small percentage.
If you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the Flight Deck of Lewis at Large Radio. We're talking to Denise Winston, multiple-time guest on this show, very happy to say. And Denise is one of America's top financial experts. She gives seminars, all kinds of classes, works with individuals, works with families, works with organizations. One of her big passions, as she just said, is making sure that you are well-informed about medical benefits and what it means to you and what it means to your family. Denise, when we talk about budgeting, and there's, again, we've had a lot of guests on this show that work directly with and appeal to baby boomers. Talk about baby boomers as a whole from coast to coast. How well prepared are we for retirement? Are we thinking about it right? Are we ahead? Are we behind? And again, maybe some mistakes we're making and things we're doing right.
Well, I think that, I think that we're, all the reports and all the data show that we're behind, because we simply, maybe got a late start, or whatever the case may be. Individuals, so many things change in our lives. The big thing I think for most people is medical is we've got to be healthy, and we're living longer, and the medical arena really can take a toll, leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. So really making sure that we have the coverages we need, and we know what we're doing with our money. On an ongoing basis. There's so many different calculations that you can say, well, how much is really enough for me to retire? They call it personal finance for a reason, because it's personal, and, understanding what you need specifically for you to live comfortably. I've got a grandfather. He's 100 years old. He is in long-term care. He can see and speak and talk and still eat a little bit, but he can't move. So that $5,000 a month certainly can eat away very, very quickly, and at 100 years old, that's a pretty long, robust life. So really planning that strategy is incredibly, incredibly important for us as a whole.
We try to stay away here, especially when we're talking to you. I know you're not trying to make specific recommendations because, as you said, everybody's situation is unique. But just in general terms, do you have an opinion about long-term care insurance?
I have a lot of opinions, but no comment. there are certain things that you need to protect yourself, and really working with your personal advisor and working with your tax person and maybe your attorney and really looking at your individual situation. That is the absolute best way for you to determine and find the right fit for you, and what works for your individual family and your specific needs.
We in terms of talking about financial literacy, so to speak, amongst generations, baby boomers, if you looked at it, if you look back, surely we're given all kinds of warning signs, all kinds of information was available about retirement. How well do you think the millennials, so to speak, and the Gen Xers are doing, the generations coming behind, those in their 20s and 30s, how well are they preparing themselves, do you think, and are they looking at the future in the right way?
Oh, boy, that is such a huge topic because I'm really concerned, to be honest with you. We're right back, we're starting this cycle again, and I do work a lot with college students and with graduating senior high school students. I can tell you that they are eager to learn, and that I get comments constantly that this is a topic that is not covered in a way that they understand in school, and it is certainly not talked about at home. So they are eager to learn, and they are wide open to listen to a trusted source. I have seen some research that shows that they are saving a little bit better. What I do find interesting is they do not need, or actually I shouldn't say they don't need, but they don't desire as much, I think, as in material objects. We've got this tiny house movement. We've got a lot of people that are really wanting to be financially independent, and they don't need the big spacious house and great car and all that. They don't want that financial stress. So I think there's some trends there that are hopeful. Because our returns in the market and our investment options may not be as strong, hopefully they are saving that piece for retirement. But what I do find is a little bit alarming is that a lot of times their car payment is more than what they're putting into their retirement account because they want to live now. And they need that magic compound interest. So I'm hopeful, let's put it that way, and I'm doing my absolute best to try and inspire and empower that next generation to really, understand and take control of their financial lives.
What about kind of along those same lines, and again, just sort of from the tops of the trees view, it also, a lot of research is showing they're waiting much longer, if at all, to buy real estate of any kind. What's your sort of take on all that?
Well, they really can't afford to number one, you got to save that down payment, and you've got to have the debt to income servicing. You've got to have that cash flow. And when we've got, the 43% debt to income ratio that the standard is for students, plus you've got your student loan debt, now you've got, 10% of your income can be, used for medical. It's really hard for a young person to buy that home. They're also delaying having children, and they're also delaying entering the workforce, which is worrisome to me in the sense that they are, when they are delaying that entering the workforce, they're not able to really harness the power of that compounding interest into their 401k. So there are some concerns in that arena, but the good thing is they're not just jumping out there and getting overextended in a home, maybe in an upside-down market. And I'm hearing on the news, or on the radio, all these advertisements for, get the cash out of your home, get a vacation loan, an unsecured personal line of credit. That kind of disturbs me a little bit because we might be reverting back to the old way of really, getting out there. Car loans are now up to 7 years. One of the magic things that I really cover that they just really didn't understand was we talk about depreciation, we talk about interest, and we talk about taxes. Those three things are the main things that eat into people's financial lives that they may not be fully aware, not completely doing the analysis of the impact long-term of those three components in their financial life.
What about the world of credit? And share with our listeners, if you would, your observations about how much do we know about our credit score? How much does it matter? Does it matter more in now than it did 10 years ago? And what can we do to make sure that things, if it does matter, that we have the highest possible score we can get?
Well, it absolutely matters because it can determine, it can affect your earnings power because employers look at it when they hire you. It can affect where you live because landlords look at it. You can even affect your car insurance because they look at it. You can, from your cell phone bill to a loan. So it is a major, major, major component of your financial life and has a lot of ability to allow you to get things done or not get things done. But what is encouraging to me is there are sites out there like creditkarma.com, which is a site where people can go and, basically they get advertised to you, but it is a viable site to see where you are with your credit score and maybe get a baseline. We've got, cards like Discover are publishing it every single month on your billing statement. So the awareness is absolutely coming up. Which is encouraging to me because people need to understand how much that little 3-digit number can control your financial life. But really it boils down to making sure that you understand your payment history is the biggest component. You've got to make your bills on time, get current, stay current. How much you owe is right behind that. So, making sure that you keep that number down and then not applying for credit on a whim, just only when you need it, and really looking at how long you've had credit and also the different types of credit that are used. So I do see the awareness coming up, which is really, really encouraging. But yet I just did a workshop for a college here. Kids never even heard anything about it, but yet they have student loans, right? So that's worrisome. So I think there still is a gap of people that are completely unaware of how credit can impact their financial life.
Denise, again, you've talked to a lot of people, young, old, everything in between, and I'm curious as to, you've been doing this now, not 3 decades, but close. What are the nature of the questions, the nature of the inquisitiveness, and again, just the nature of the subjects that you talk about and respond to? Are they pretty much the same over the years, or what's different now than maybe it was maybe even 5 or 10 years ago?
Well, what I just find fascinating is you don't even know what you don't know until there's a problem. And people simply don't know what to ask. And that's where it's just so inspiring me to reach people when they weren't even aware. So, I just see that the same things keep popping up, just like in 25 years when you saw these people, they came in and would ask you, how much of a loan can I afford for this car, this house, not doing a budget, not understanding, not saving, all those things just really, really add up. So I wouldn't say that there is a shift in the trend of the things that people are searching for. It usually is damage control after something has already happened instead of preventative. And I think that's just the nature that we are. We all know that we should eat well and eat our fruits and vegetables and exercise. Knowledge is only power when you use it. You stand around and you know that you need to be doing something, but you don't. It's really hard to sit and complain, right?
Yeah. Well, let's, again, you just joined us. We're talking to Denise Winston. She is, for 25 years, she has built a tremendous career, giving tremendous advice from a global view, but also sometimes from a little bit closer up about finances to young people, to old people, to middle-aged people, to you name it, corporations and private citizens alike, kind of known as America's financial expert. Let's talk a little bit before we get out of here about It's Your Money. Tell us about the work. It's a little bit of an update, but tell us about it.
I just really found that people, the title of the book, It's Your Money, Avoid Costly Mistakes. And really, that's what it's about. There's all kinds of books out there that are about investing, and here's what you should do. But, let's talk about how to avoid the most common costly mistakes in our day-to-day lives. And so when I updated the book, I just went through and just refreshed it and just re-released it in people so they go, okay, it's a really quick read. Here are some just quick tips to help me avoid those most common costly mistakes. And so, it's people can get a Kindle version. They can get the, paperback version from my website, DeniseWinston.com. And there's also a YouTube channel on there that you can subscribe to. I just did an update on how to save money at Starbucks. So I talk about real everyday things in this book, whether it is your banking, your credit score, your budgeting, shopping online. I'm just a real deal type of gal. Everyday finance, these are the essential things you need to know to make sure that you avoid those costly mistakes at DeniseWinston.com.
Okay. What when this interview winds up and this show ends today, what's the first thing that people can do on Monday to set things if they're headed in the wrong direction or they're in the right direction? What should they do first thing Monday morning?
First thing is every time you are going to make a purchase, you are going to spend, not even make a purchase, you're going to spend some money. Think about every dollar in your budget. Every dollar that comes into your household needs a job. And if it doesn't have a job, it's just like a teenager. It's going to lounge around and do nothing and waste a bunch of time. So really looking at where every single dollar that comes into your household, where it goes, that budget is essential. Absolutely essential. So if you can sit down and just pencil it out or go to something like Mint.com or You Need a Budget or even Quicken, those are tools that will help you get on autopilot and make sure that every dollar is accounted for and that every single one of them has a job.
In general, and again, a big general question here, but regardless of income, regardless of what the goals are, do you advocate everybody getting a hold of some kind of financial advisor of some kind, or do you believe this is the kind of thing that with the resources out there, most people can just do it on their own?
You know, it's really important that you have a group of advisors around you, period, whether that is, your banker, your CPA, your attorney, your financial advisor, your friends, your family, you've got resources, and we all know something about money. And really, for me, it's about starting that conversation and making sure that you are talking about money instead of so many people are overwhelmed and confused, and they just throw their hands up and they just let their money run wild. And so they don't really even know where it's going or what it's doing. And that is not good. So, even getting a copy of my book, just reading through a couple chapters will help you even if you're looking for a financial advisor. It has questions in there. It's full of questions that you can ask certain people about what they do so you can better understand it. And if you're stressed, don't feel alone. I dedicate this book to the people. Every single one of us have to deal with money. It's all the common denominator. So grab a hold of whatever speaks to you, whoever speaks to you in your own way at that specific time in your life, and harness the power of connection and utilizing the advice and knowledge that you gain.
Well, we can go on, but let's do this. Let's, again, the new work is called It's Your Money, but more importantly, well, just as importantly, and maybe more importantly, Denise Winston is the name. Denise, how can people find out more about the advice that you give, the information that you have, pick up a copy of the book for sure, but also just learn a little bit more on their own?
Just basically, if you go to DeniseWinston.com, that's Winston like Churchill, that's Winston like Tire, you can remember. You can put Denise and money. YouTube channel is great. Go to my website. There's all kinds of resources there for people to utilize. Really it's just about making sure that those that we know, love, and care about have the access to knowledge about money, because money affects our relationships, our health, and just about every aspect of our life, and we have to come together to help people gain control of their financial situation, and I just love being able to be a part of that and helping people truly do that.
Well, listen, thank you so much for the work that you do, for all of us working so hard to educate us to the right ways and ways to be financially prudent. And thanks so much for being a guest again, and would love to have you on, as you know, one more time sometime in the future.
Great to be here with you, Lewis, and everybody else out there. Everybody have a fantastic day.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.